TBTL Week in Review.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Week in Review. This is the TBTL video where we look back at the week that was in TBTL land. And it seems the perfect week to welcome our special guest, our friend, Mr. Bobby Pape. Hey, Bobby.
Hi there, boys. Happy to be here.
Bobby, you pulled off, I thought, a very, very good spoof. In the parlance of TBTL, that's a pretty good spoof, where you sent in a letter to the Rant and Rave column of the Seattle Times pretending to be a guy who Andrew had gotten in an argument with on a staircase at T-Mobile Field. When did the inspiration come to you to send in this Rant and Rave?
Well, I've been following the Rant and Raves daily, the Seattle Times. I'm sure they've seen a big readership bump after the TBTL 10s have descended on the Seattle Times website through incognito windows to follow it without actually paying for it every day, waiting tirelessly for Andrew's rant and blue sky plug to make it onto the show, or rather make it into the paper. And I don't know, something just clicked. I mean, Andrew, your issue with that guy was completely founded. He was nuts, but it just sort of clicked in my mind at some point that guy is probably the exact kind of guy who writes in to the rants and raves about something so inconsequential. And I don't know, something just hit. I think I may have had a couple of drinks or perhaps imbibed in a gummy that's legal here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I just fired it off. It was from a burner email account. I didn't expect to ever get anything back. I certainly didn't expect it to run. And then a week and a half later, there it was.
You know, I appreciate you saying that you think that I was in the right. Now, keep in mind, you're hearing the story about my initial interaction with this fella at the ballpark. You heard it from me, of course. So, of course, I can kind of work those levers to get you over to my side. But I was kind of surprised that I didn't get any pushback from other listeners via email or like even just seeing something on social media of somebody saying, I don't know, I think Andrew's in the wrong on this one. Cutting is cutting. Have you seen anything? And you don't have to name names. And if you have,
don't tell Andrew about it.
But has there been any chatter about how I might be on the outs on that one or on the wrong side of history on that one?
Well, I hear a little less day-to-day TBTL chatter than I used to, but I don't think so. I think if nothing else, Genevieve was there to validate your story. So, as much as we might think you are just being a little bit of a crank or picking a fight, we trust her at least.
She didn't even know what was going on. I got to say, Bobby, you are pretty good. You're taking to this medium very well here. Have you ever done like kind of a podcast recap show like this before?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Seems natural.
It's a novel idea you guys came up with to do a show to review the last week of TBTL episodes, huh? So, this is.
I didn't actually think about that, Bobby. By the way, sorry about that. If we stepped on your guys' whole brand, all I know, things have evolved a bit over time.
It has indeed. So for folks who are unaware, nearly a decade ago, something like that, a handful of folks, and I can't take credit for being a true founder on this. That was all the power of Super 10 connector Christy Wise and the late great Mike Frizzell. Christy's idea and Mike's willingness to rope a bunch of people in to do all his work for him, indeed. Started Little Red Badwagon way back in the day to do the weekly recap show of TBTL. And then at some point several years ago, we all just decided that we were having more fun with our own BSing than we were doing the recap portion of the show. But I'm glad it's lived on for this year, and I'm glad to be a part of it here toward the end of this season, as it were. We're still doing our show. It's called This Show Has Everything. It is about absolutely nothing, and it posts every Monday or Sunday night. And you can find it at thishowhaseverything.com or a URL that at some point I might gift to you all, but you can also find it at momsatthe.net, which is a URL I sniped years ago and somehow have held on to all of these years.
That's pretty good.
Wow.
Excuse me, momsonThe.net. I don't know what the other one goes to.
Probably nothing good, presumably.
Yeah.
Bobby, I'm wondering, this was a great spoof this week, the Rant and Rave, and Andrew and I both immediately thought, this looks like the work of a recognized master in the field, Bobby Pape. Is it a compliment that when something like this happens, we just kind of figure it might be you? Or does that mean that you're overexposed? You're now receiving your burn notice. You can no longer be the chief spoofer because you've been compromised, my friend. We know it's you now.
Yeah, and I'm going to play something here for you guys that I haven't even told either one of you about. In fact, I haven't even listened to this audio myself. I just saw the transcript of this voicemail that came in a few days ago from one Middle Shelf Maggie.
Hello, it's Maggie from the Middle Shelf. I'm going to say, if I had to guess, I would say we are being trolled by one Roberto Pape, known as Bobby Pape. That would be my guess. He's the only one. We're being trolled. That's all I can say. Power out.
There's there's Maggie. So it wasn't just Luke
I want
and
to point out, does not drink anymore.
Right.
Is a sober person. Yeah. So I guess back to that original question, Bobby. Like you, now that the suspicion is always turns towards you on these, does it mean that you have to up your game when it comes to pranking an elephant, aka me and Andrew, or might you hand the torch to someone else? Like, how do you deal with this kind of notoriety?
Well, we've let it rest for years at a time. We haven't done any real cat rolling in a very long time. Some of the other things that have come and gone, they just sort of strike as inspiration moves. I don't mind taking credit for it. I don't think I've caught many strays through the years. So, I mean, any grief I've taken has been my own. And, when someone else on Sunday night screenshot that rant and put it into the Stens page, so I didn't have to be the one who said, "Hey, look, who did that?" That's when I knew I was golden on this one, because I just stepped back and I just said, wow, okay, and I just watched the comments roll in. So anytime I can get you off your game and give you a day of content, I'm happy to help.
And does it give you some pleasure to know that I, weeks prior to you, submitted my own rant and rave to the Seattle Times, which has still not been published yet?
That's the flex in this whole thing, is that as a joke, drunk and or possibly high, you leapfrogged right over Andrew.
I mean, maybe it's because I did 6 months on a copy desk at a regional newspaper, but I think there's just a very specific style that they're looking for this kind of thing. And it's just a little bit of old man yells at cloud. I think I wrote something in there about it being America's pastime and won't somebody please think of the children?
Mm-hmm.
I played all the hits.
That was noted by Andrew.
Yeah, I had a feeling, I wanted to put in there my adult son, and then I pulled it back because I knew I'd get more love if it might be a kid.
Did they edit you at all? Did you notice any changes, or did they run it exactly?
I don't think
as you
so.
sent it?
I think a very tired weekend editor ran it exactly the way I sent it in.
Is there a rant and rave column in the Globe, in the Boston Globe, Bobby, where you live? I mean, is this a typical thing in most major newspapers, or just kind of specific to Seattle?
I don't think there's one in the Globe. I can't think I've seen one. I actually did just submit a very serious op-ed to the Globe about their last full-time classical music critic leaving and how imperative it is that they replace that person. And I got I got a firm one-sentence reply saying, "Thanks, but we'll pass on this." Literally, that's what the deputy managing editor of the editorial page sent back to me. So apparently I can only write funny things. I can't write serious things.
Huh. I wonder why I wonder if they passed on it because they were concerned about being seen as biting that, like if they publish an op-ed piece that's critical of their own decision-making process, they will look bad to their bosses. What do you think, if you have to speculate, why do you think they turned it down?
I think that's absolutely it. And, the demise of American newspapers today. I mean, this is how something like this gets in the rants and raves. This is why rants and raves exists, right? It's a very low threshold of work for a regional newspaper. Or a major city newspaper. I wrote back and I said I would have sent this to the ombuds person, but that person got laid off years ago and was never replaced. So, the silver lining of newspapers going to hell in America is that I can get a dumb joke from a fake email address printed in the Seattle Times and it never gets fact checked. So, they never called or anything to confirm running it either. It just happened.
Well, I want you to know, Bobby, that TBTL is still a place where we will absolutely criticize ourselves or print things that are critical of us. So while the Boston Globe is obviously like operating in panic mode, we're wide open to you spoofing us, sending us like op-ed pieces that talk about how TBTL used to be better. Anything you want to do, we're here for the content. And I want to say, by the way, the donation. Thank you. You are the first person, we think, at least in the first very, very short list of people who donated to this year's TBTL-a-thon. We're recording this on a Friday. I think the show went live 2:00 West Coast, Andrew, and you said 2:03. Bobby was in there.
Something like that, yeah.
Thanks,
and
man.
already and giving us feedback on a glitch on the website, which was very necessary, by the way. So thank you for using your own cash dollars to also troubleshoot our website. That's a twofer.
Well, I wanted to get in early because I knew we were doing this, and let's use this as my personal testimonial for you all. I've been listening since just past the radio days, but I've gone back and listened to a lot of those episodes too. You guys have been a constant, and of course, you two know this, and a lot of the folks who may watch this already know this, but I think I owe most of my social life to connections I've made through TBTL. It's important to me, and I think it's important to a lot of people. I mean, this is a self-selecting audience, people watching the Week in Review, so you already know, but look at these two guys with me in the video screen here. They have no other employable skills, so please, by all means, get out there
No. I did something today here at the house. I was replacing the screen on a screen door. It was all kind of messed up, and my dad was helping me, and he said, if this radio thing doesn't work out, you could do that for a job. There's an industry of that. And I said, it would be the only actual marketable skill I have is repairing screen doors, because there's nothing else. So you are absolutely right, Bobby. Well, Bobby, I just want to say personally, thank you, man. Like, you've been such a great contributor to the show in a variety of ways for all these years, and I love the energy and the kind of like having fun with us, because it's also always comes from ultimately a place of like, you've just been such a supporter of the show, and you've been so good to us all these years. So, spoof away. We assume anyway that it's all coming from a place of love.
Of course. Look, if you guys stop now, then we won't have two white guys talking to each other about their lives anywhere. So someone's got to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. We're the last, honestly, we are the last of the brohicans. And here we are.
I don't know that we can do this for sure, Bobby, but I will talk to John and Luke about this and see if we can earmark your donations to rehire our classical music reviewer.
Good.
Sort of
Good.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
It'll be the Bobby Pape endowed classical music review position.
Yes.
Hey, thank you to Bobby, of course. Thanks to Andrew. This is the penultimate Week in Review. We're going to be doing a Week in reviewed next week from here at the Madrona Hill studio, if it's physically safe for people to be indoors here. And, of course, we've got the thon coming up next week, so we hope we'll see a lot of you for that as well. Anyway, thank you very much for supporting TBTL. If you're getting this emailed to you, that's because you've been donating. We really appreciate it. We couldn't do this without you. And we will see you next week on the Week in Review.
Thank you.